Hey, welcome back to Pave the Way podcast. I am here with rockstar investor Dave Toupin, who is a young buck just like me. I believe you're 24, right, Dave?
24, yep.
24. You got the two 24-year-olds doing the show today. So Dave is a really
Love it.
successful multifamily investor syndicator. We're going to get into his backstory, how he got started in this business, and how he's become extremely successful doing multifamily syndication deals as a 24-year-old, which is not very common. A lot of young investors are flipping houses like me, and Dave has found a way to crack the code and get into the big boy deals. So really excited to have you on the show, Dave. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. Let's teach everybody how to crack the code.
I love it, man. I love it. So
Possible.
it totally is, man. So let's kind of just get right into it, man. So what does your background look like before you got into the real estate business? Because you're the same age as me, dude. We would have graduated high school at the same time. So.
2013?
Yeah, man. 2013.
Yeah. Yep, that's it. So background, I mean, I guess I've always been somewhat of an entrepreneur. When I was 13, 14 years old, I started a landscaping company. Ran that through high school. I didn't really want to go the traditional route. So I did that and I loved it, loved working for myself. But I stopped when I went to college, and I thought that, I'd always wanted to get into real estate in some way. I had seen a couple of friends or people I've met who'd been very successful in real estate, and I was like, man, it seems like something that anybody can do. You don't need a degree to do it. You don't need it. I mean, I have a degree, but you don't need it. You don't need anything special to do it. You don't need to be a lawyer or go to school for 8 extra years, right? You can just hop right into real estate and do it. So it made sense. I read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm sure you and a ton of your listeners have read. And for me, that was like flip the switch. It just made so much sense, real estate, that I had to do it. And at the time, I was in college doing a couple internships, preparing to get out and have a high-paying job, W-2, where I could funnel money from that into real estate investments. That was my first plan. So I was doing some investment banking internships. I took a semester off, and I think I did about 6 or 8 months worth of internships in that and consulting, which, looking back was good. It didn't end up being what I did after the fact, but it was a good learning experience. I really learned a lot of the numbers, financials and stuff. And so right after my last day I was at a company called Deloitte. They're a big four consulting firm. Yeah. So my last day there, they offered me a job, and I turned it down on the spot, and I told them I want to go into real estate.
I love it.
So I turned down a couple 6-figure job offers, and I knew I was not going to make any money my first year in real estate. But I'd saved up a little bit. I had like 10 grand in my bank account. I was living with my parents, and I just knew that I had to kind of burn the bridge behind me, because then there's nowhere to go but forward. And I had to be successful. There's no other option,
Dude, that's amazing. Similar situation with you. Went to college, got the degree. I didn't turn down a 6-figure job, even though I probably would have, knowing me. We're very similar. I
think you would have.
Yeah, because I had pretty good grades in college too. Like, I wasn't a terrible student, and but yeah, that's crazy, man. So you started here. I was literally doing the same in my parents' basement.
Crazy.
Like, how do I figure this out? The first year, made freaking $4 grand, some crazy ass.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, everyone's starting to get out of college, or they're in college and they're getting their comfortable jobs, and I feel like I'm the knucklehead.
No, but in reality, you're the genius.
Yeah. You gotta wait a couple of years for that, though.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is I knew year 1 and 2 would suck, but hopefully year 3 going forward would be great. And that's turned out to be true. And you just have to put in that time up front. And so I was, at first working from home. I linked up with a guy. When I turned down those job offers, I still had a year and a half left of college, but I was taking night classes and online, so that I could work, 80 hours a week on real estate. And I started doing wholesaling and flipping. I didn't start with apartments and commercial. I started with wholesaling and flipping.
Yeah. So what did that kind of look like? How did you, what made you want to jump into the, kind of the residential wholesaling flipping world that I live in today? What made
Sure.
you kind of want to gravitate towards that? And then I really want to, you can spend a brief time on that, but really the thing that's fascinating is the fact that you made the jump to, the good side of real estate investing, the big boy league. You made it so
Yeah,
quick, you didn't like say, oh, I'm going to
sure.
wait 10 years and do 1,000 deals. And you
Hmm.
just freaking took the jump. So why did you get into like the wholesale residential side? And then really the second part to that question is like, why did you switch more of a why did you switch so quickly to commercial, right? Apartment
Hmm.
building, obviously similar, but at the same time much different than the traditional, residential flipping.
Yeah. Well, I guess on the first part, like, why did I do the residential? Because I had been listening to Bigger Pockets, I'd been reading books and stuff, and I had read a lot about commercial and apartments, and I knew that was my end goal. Because if I look back, I write my goals all the time, and I used to write my goals religiously, like every day, maybe twice a day. This is in 2016 when I first started, and some of my first goals I wrote were I want to like my first goals were after I read the 10x rule by Grant Cardone, I want to own 10 rental properties by the time I'm 25 years old.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, I'm writing this. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but like, I'm just going to write it down and we'll see, and then as I continued learning and absorbing information, my goals evolved and changed. So by mid 2016, I have this, I should frame it, but I found this as I moved from Michigan to Austin 5 months ago, Austin, Texas. And my 1 year goal was I want to buy 100 apartment units. This is in May of 2016. I ended up going and linking up with a guy locally that was wholesaling and flipping. And he's flipping about 100 homes a year and wholesaling several as well. So he's doing very well in that single family space. And I worked for him for a little bit as like an acquisitions guy, going to the auctions, cold calling foreclosures, door knocking, same stuff that you do.
I did the same shit. I worked for another
Same
guy.
shit. You worked for another guy.
Same
And then
thing.
after like 4 months of working with him, I proved myself and I did very well. I found a ton of great deals that we flipped. And I made a little bit of money there. I made like, 20, 30,000 bucks. Well, maybe not even that much, maybe 20 grand the first couple months. And so at the time we both wanted to get into apartments and do bigger stuff. And so I was like, let's start a business together as 50-50 partners and let's go into apartments full time. And so I had written my goal 100 units by within a year. That was May 2016. I think by September of 2017, so it was a year and a couple months, I had bought my first 120 units. So we put our heads down and we just ran with it. And all we did was focus on apartments.
Damn,
and we bought
crazy.
Yeah. And I made
first deal.
So first deal was from a broker. It was a 12 unit. Actually, my first deal was pretty much 2 deals. We did 2 at the same time because we found 2 12 units on the same block. It was like 20 minutes away from where we both worked out of. And it was like a C plus area in Michigan. So 2 12 units, we raised a couple $100,000, closed on both of those. We self-managed, got a piece of sweat equity. And that was kind of the stepping stone to learn, how does this business work? And we didn't really make a lot of money on those. Our investors ended up doing well. But you don't make a ton of money syndicating a 12 unit, but I learned the process on how to do it. And so, I started small so we could learn, we self-managed them, dove right in. I definitely would have made more money had I continued flipping and wholesaling, but, decided that the long-term game and being patient is just way more important.
Yeah. And especially with the whole business model of apartments, we're going to get into that right now. Like the model is like you're buying and then you have the residual income coming in every month from the rents, I'm a big flipper, wholesaler, and it's a great business. I've done very, very well, but it's like you
stop and your income stops in 90 days.
Yeah, exactly. When the marketing stops, your income stops. And it's like, you have to really understand, I think that's a big thing investors screw up, especially young investors. Like a lot of people listening to us, especially the younger folks, this wholesaling and flipping houses is a great business. I think it's awesome. I'll continue to do it. And especially when you're coming from a job, like if you're listening and you have a job right now, you have to go to your boss every day. When you can transition to, okay, now you're basically a salesperson, even if you're an entrepreneur, you're a salesperson.
Commission almost. Yeah.
You're selling.
You don't work, you don't eat.
Exactly. That's much better, in my opinion, than having to go to work from 9 to 5, but you're still wheeling and dealing. You're making your money by buying and selling. With your apartment model, you're once you acquire the asset and add value and stabilize it, you're going to get the checks coming in every month from the rents. Right?
Exactly.
Let's fast forward now to kind of like, let's give the listeners like a snapshot of what your business looks like today, from an apartment perspective. And I'll let you kind of just take over from here.
Yeah. So today, fast forward, it's been about 3 years. Well, yeah, 3 years, just over 3 years. I have bought a little over 500 apartments, I think 520. I just bought 2 pieces of land so I have a new business partner now. I was with that original business partner for about a year. Didn't work out. Wasn't the guy that I was going to continue working with. I found a new business partner through a mastermind I'm in. We've been together for about a year. It's going phenomenal. He's a really good guy, very ethical. We have the same moral values, the same vision, which is really important when you're in a partnership. Dude, you got to have the same values. Like if you're not both by the book and one person's a little sketchy, it's not going to work out. And I'm by the book. Integrity is important to me. So my new business partner, Glenn, is awesome. He's owned about 4,500 apartment units. So he had a $250 million portfolio. And when I met him, he was going through a split with his business partner. Has the same reasons that I split with my original business partner. Wasn't the best guy. And was a little bit sketchy. So they ended up selling their portfolio off. It's almost done selling everything. It's been about 2 years, but me and him started a new business together called Obsidian Capital back in December of 2018. So we've been together for, just a little under a year now. And we've bought several hundred apartment units together. And we've got a couple pieces of land we just bought. And we're doing about $20 million in new developments. We're building 140 apartments and 13,000 square feet of commercial space. So
that commercial developer at age 24. Yep. I want all the listeners to really understand this. Dave, 4 years ago, was in college,
broke
homework. Broke. Now he's down in Austin, Texas, one of the hottest real estate markets in the country, developing commercial real estate. And we're going to get into how he's doing that in a minute here, but I just want everyone to, like, big takeaways that your age does not matter. Like, it's all about your work ethic, your experience, your ability to, be coachable, and your ability to just straight up freaking implement. Because there's people that I know who are, they're double Dave's age, and they're not doing the business that Dave's doing. And there's nothing right or wrong with that, but don't let your age be a limiting belief, because if I would let my age be a limiting belief, I would not be nearly as far as I am today. And I have a long ways to go. And I'm sure Dave would be the same way. He'd be like, I'm enough. I can't do it. I don't have the track record, and investors never going to give me money. There's all these beliefs you're going to give into your head. They're going to plant in your head. And it's total BS. Wouldn't you say, Dave?
Yeah, I think it's important to know. I mean, confidence is really key. And I was always, since I started, I've been asked by people like, oh, do you get a lot of shit because of your age, or do people give you a hard time because you're so young? And honestly, I mean, I've been asked so many times now. Obviously, it's a thought in my mind, but I've never once thought that age should limit me from being able to go do a $15 million deal, right? Like I'm just as capable as anyone else to do that. It doesn't matter if they're twice my age or not. And I've proven that. And really what it comes down to is, I think, your intelligence, your knowledge of the subject. Can you communicate with the banks and lenders? Can you communicate with brokers? Do you know how the numbers work on large apartment complexes? Can you underwrite them? And if you've taught yourself those skills, there's no reason you shouldn't be able to go and walk and talk and play with, people that are twice our age doing it. So
exactly. It's all about the skills. It's something I always talk about, man. I'm like, it doesn't matter how old you are. Once you're committed to developing the skills, right?
Yep.
You're going to be able to make that money.
Absolutely. It's for young people, I mean, it's totally like, my strategy was, like I said, long-term vision. I was patient, and I made a lot less money in the first, 2 years doing apartments. But I spent all of my time looking for deals, analyzing deals, reading about buying apartments, talking to brokers, talking to investors, talking to bankers and lenders. And I just developed a skill set, and the skill set allows me to be confident in what I do. And so I think lack of, when I told you that first goal I wrote down, I wanted 10 rentals by the time I'm 25. I just didn't have enough knowledge to be confident enough to know that I could have done more. And obviously I ended up blowing that goal out of the water because I gave myself the knowledge, I learned more, and I built confidence in what I was doing.
Dude, I love that, man. That's such a powerful takeaway, because I did something. I feel like everything we're doing is like so similar.
Yeah. So similar.
I remember I wrote a goal down. My first ever goal, realistically, was like, do one real estate deal within 1 year from today. So I remember it was like August.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, I'm going to give myself 12 months to do one real estate deal. And I think I did like 4 or something like that.
Hell yeah.
What the hell? Like, what nowadays I'm like, what the hell are you thinking, dude? And that's why I always love like writing my goals down and like looking back a couple years ago and seeing like, wow, that was my goal. Holy shit. Yep. I'm like a completely different person now. And
exactly.
It's the growth that's the most fun part. So before we kind of transition to some I really want to call it the 20% that have allowed you to really have the 80% of success. What, for someone listening to the show right now, they're probably thinking, okay, Dave clearly knows what he's doing, but how is he raising the money to do these bigger types of commercial properties? Because that's a big thing that you really need to understand when you're going to jump into the apartment business, or you're going to jump into just the commercial business in general. It's more of a capital intensive business. So
totally.
I want to see if you could share real quickly kind of what a syndication is, and how you're successfully implementing these syndication deals that allow you to get into these deals as a principal to, make everyone, win, whether it's you, the banks, the investors, and obviously the tenants who are going to be occupying those properties.
Absolutely. Yeah. So syndication in a nutshell was perfect for me because I had no money. When I started, if you want to buy my first 2 properties, it was about 1.2 million total between the 2. If you want to buy something like that, you've got to have money, right? You got to have a down payment, renovation money, all that stuff. So I figured out before syndication was a buzzword and a hot topic like it is today. Now everyone wants to do it, right? Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. So I almost don't like saying I'm a syndicator.
Yeah, right.
I had read some books and listened to some podcasts, and people were talking about raising money for deals. And then I just kind of figured out all I have to do is go figure out how much money the deal is going to take to buy. I'm going to go raise that money from investors. Let's say I'm buying, my third deal was a 96 unit. This will be a good example for raising money. I was 21 years old and had to raise $1.7 million.
Holy cow.
Imagine a 21-year-old coming to you. This is between me and my business partner. We raised together, but imagine a 21-year-old coming to you and asking for $50, $100, $150, $200,000, and trying to show you this business plan about how this apartment deal is going to work out and how you're going to make money and all that. And it was certainly not easy. But syndication in a nutshell is figure out how much money we need to raise to buy a property, a deal. We run the numbers. We raise all the money from investors in one pool of money. Those are Class A, let's say Class A ownership, and that might account for 70 to 80% of the ownership of the property. Class B ownership, the other 20, 30%, will come to me and my business partner, sponsors for putting the deal together. So we're getting 20, 30% sweat equity for putting the deal together, raising the money, lining up the financing. We oversee it. We put the plan together. And then investors put the money up for 70, 80% of the ownership, right? And then we pay them out returns every quarter based on what profits the property makes. From the net income, they might get, they'll get their percentage of the net income. And then when we sell it, they'll get their percentage of the profits. And there's so many different ways to structure it, but that's essentially it. You're raising money from investors. They get a piece of ownership in the property. And then I get a piece of ownership for putting the deal together and structuring it. And that's my sweat equity. So that's how I went and bought my first 3 deals. I had no money to put into it. So I was 0 down and bought 120 apartment units between those 3 deals just by raising capital.
That's incredible. And what are you doing right now to raise capital from investors? Because what are your activities that you do? I'd rather have this be more of like a tactical thing. Like, what activities does Dave to make sure his database is filled with investors who are willing to invest with Dave?
So I go to a lot of events. I go to a ton of multifamily apartment events, and I'm always finding investors from those. We have a website where we throw out some ads, some Google ads that drive some investors. I'd say 2 to 3 a month we get from there that are $50,000 to $250,000 investors. Wow. And we only throw a couple $100 a month at that. I do a ton of social media. So I'm all over Instagram and Facebook, a little bit of LinkedIn. And I'm gonna be honest, I've raised several $1 million from investors that I've met through like Facebook and Instagram. Just because I'm active, I post, I have a big Facebook group for apartment investors. And, just a lot of people see what I'm doing. They get to see like, what's my life actually like? What am I doing? Get to know me as a person through that. And then, they'll hit me up, we'll build a relationship, and then they'll, sign up for register to be an investor on our platform. So, yeah, it's just talking to everybody. I mean, I met a guy in the airport the other day. I was sitting next to him and I just started talking to him, talking about real estate a little bit. He's like, oh, I owned a business. I might be interested in investing. And I gave him my card. He emailed me and now he registered and he said he's interested in investing 50 to 100 grand on the next deal.
Look at that. So, you never know. That's amazing.
Always talking to people, dude.
Always got to tell people what you do. I think some people are scared to say what they do. And it's like, if you don't tell everyone you buy houses or you raise money for apartment deals, how are they ever going to I have people it's funny, like you, I've raised capital through the internet. I've had people send me leads through the internet. Like the social media is meant to produce, in my opinion, not to consume.
I'd rather put out absolutely
and have people watch my shit than me sitting there like scrolling through.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Like social media is definitely a game changer.
Oh, it's totally. And be a producer, not a consumer. Don't, that's my big tip on social media. Just make sure you put out daily stuff. And if you do that, you will build a following because people always need things to watch. Everyone,
absolutely.
Everyone wants to watch your stuff. And it's funny, the more you put out, you kind of get this momentum thing going. So
absolutely. Yeah. It just takes time.
It just takes time and consistency, man. So now we're going to kind of transition. I guess I like kind of where we're going here. So what would you say, you've done a lot of business so far, you've been doing this business, for, almost a half decade now. What has been your key 20%, that you've focused on that has allowed you to really get that 80% of success, like the essential things that you've done so far that have really been the drivers for your growth year over year over year?
Sure. Number one thing I always talk about and I tell people is focus. As entrepreneurs, we have a tendency to have shiny penny syndrome. And every time we see something interesting, a new deal, new opportunity, we kind of switch up what we're doing. And, we've got too many things going on, too many ideas going on in our head, especially when you're starting up and you don't have, a fully operating business where you've got continued obligations and now that's pushing you forward and keeping you focused. But focus is so, so important. Most of the biggest companies in the world picked one thing, got really good at it, and they focused on it, and they were able to produce insane results and grow and scale. And when you focus on something, it's way easier to build systems around it, to scale, to recreate efficiencies. Even, I'm not just talking about trying to invest in real estate and then trying to be a Bitcoin investor all day, right? Or crypto person. First of all, if you have 2 things you're doing or 3 things you're doing, let's say you have 3 things you're doing, you're spending a third of your time on each, but you're not getting 33% efficiency on each. You might only be getting 20% efficiency because you have to spend, half your time jumping back and forth between the 2 things, dealing with different people, different brokers, different contacts in each different industry. And you're really going to get 60 to 70% efficiency. If you focus on one thing, you're going to have 100% of your attention on it and you're going to be 100% efficient. So the first thing is focus, and you will not waste your time on stuff that's not going to get you anywhere.
No, that's so important because I think with, kind of piggybacking on the whole social media thing, it's so easy to see what one guy's doing and think that's the coolest thing. I need to do that. If I'm not doing this strategy, I'm a knucklehead. It's the discipline to just stay focused on your goals is so critical. And especially with you,
so critical.
Focus is you're primarily doing I know you have that retail space down below, but there's apartments above it. So for the most part, you're one.
So we're doing up till now, it's been all apartments, right? So I think once you have a sustainable business, that's the point where you can add something else in. So we've now added development in as something we're doing because we have a sustainable business. And, we have cash flow coming in. We've sold some deals this year and done very well. We feel comfortable adding in a second thing, and we have a team around what we're doing. So it's easier to focus on that. Plus, because I've done this for a couple of years now, I can spend at first it probably took me, let's say a task that might have taken me an hour, let's say working with the lender, sending some personal financials, documents in, or underwriting a deal, for example. I can now do that in a half or a third of the time just because I know it's so much better because I've done it so many times now. So I'm way more efficient and I have more time to now add in another focus. Like I'm building a software company right now and we're starting the new development. So, there's all these different things you can do, but don't do them all when you're just starting out.
No.
Good at one thing, just try to master it and focus on it. And then, eventually give it a couple of years, then add in something else, but it takes time.
Yeah, you got to get, especially in the beginning, like you said, you got to really get your footing going. You got to have some traction.
Yeah.
You want the proof of concept. That's why newbies just get thrown off, is like because they try one thing and it doesn't work. They dabble.
Yeah.
I think Rod Cleef.
I do this all the time. Dabblers get crushed. I had so many problems with lack of focus. I'll give you an example. I bought those 3 apartment complexes. I wanted to keep buying apartments. I was looking at tons of different deals and I came across like a senior living property, right? And I spent, I think 3 or 4 months negotiating this senior living deal. I really didn't know how to manage it, but I went and took a bunch of time to meet managers and I went to a couple seminars to learn about senior living and toured the deal a bunch, spent a couple months negotiating. The deal ended up falling through at the last minute. So all the time and effort was for nothing. And I wasted 4 months where I could have been finding apartments, right? So stay in your lane until you have, I think, a sustainable business model. That's really important. And I mean, I struggle with it today too. I mean, it's all the time. It's a constant struggle being an entrepreneur. We're always wanting to do different opportunities that can make us money.
Yeah,
so,
it's tough to implement. Like it's tough to consistently like I'm more of like a type A person, I guess the visionary type where like I have the ideas, but like the actual day-to-day execution, I get very bored and tired and nuts, I really focus on how do I have someone like I have a good VA who really like works my system for me.
Yeah.
Where like
there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
smart.
like that it helps. So what would you say another key is? Obviously we covered one, so let's cover like another key, like on how you really had that growth at such a young age. Like, was it who were you hanging out with different people, or what was like that other kind of driver for your success?
Dude, you totally hit it.
Oh, really? Look at that.
Yeah. So that's the second one. So I've got this list. I wrote, 5 things that I think are my top 5 secrets for success in being a successful entrepreneur. And the second one, first is focus. Second one is changing your circle. I was in college and I was in doing these internships. And even before that, I was in a fraternity and, hanging out with all these people and you partying a lot in college. And yeah, it's fun, but you're around people that really aren't doing anything or going anywhere. And they're not supportive of your goals and your visions and your dreams. And I had goals and dreams of being very successful and helping people and doing great things. And the people around me, when I would talk about that or want to do that or take action on it, would speak negatively about it. And they're just, there's just toxic people. And I think a lot of people are in the same situation. I talked to a guy yesterday, he's 20 years old. And he really he's been reading about real estate and trying to get started for a while. And he said everyone around him, his family and friends are telling him he's too young to do it and it's not going to be possible. So he should just quit. And I'm like, oh, dude, I hate that so much because it's so not true. And, you have to, that's the first thing you have to do. If you have people like that, you have to change your circle. You don't have to stop being friends with them. You don't have to stop loving your family. But if they are holding you back, get them the fuck out. That is the key.
Have to. And it's funny you say it like that because like I remember I went to the real estate seminar when I was 20. I was that gentleman's age. And I like they were saying like, oh, you got to fire your friends, fire your family.
Totally.
And I was like, what the hell? So I came after this seminar, me and my buddy who actually does deals with me today. And we're like, oh, you guys are idiots. Not my family, obviously, but my buddy. We're like, you guys are in the rat race, losers. We're going to be billionaires, whatever. And like everyone just started just disowning us. And we felt like we were on this little like island alone, like trying to be successful. And it was like this whole nightmare. But what I found out was to go off what you said, when you decide to change yourself and you start to, get into personal development and really study your craft and take action, you're going to naturally drift away from those types of people.
Yep.
And you're going to naturally attract towards other people who are like-minded. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I didn't just
Exactly.
call you out of the blue. We got connected by a mutual friend, and like, you know what I mean? We would have ran into each other eventually, but I mean, you naturally just kind of meet new people. And
some ideas on how to do that is go on meetup.com or go on Facebook and look at events in your area. Say you want to get into real estate. There are real estate events and meetups everywhere across the country. Start going to those, make some new friends, hang out with those people, right? And then also, you go on Facebook. Like I run a big Facebook group for apartment investors called 10X Apartment Investing. And, you can join groups like that. And I have tons of friends who also have other Facebook groups. You could join those and get to know people. And social media is a great way to interact with like-minded people. And you have to change that up, because you also want to be with people that are doing better than you all the time. Like I'm constantly trying to, the people I'm hanging out with, I want to hang out with people. I want like 3 or 4 key friends that are worth $50 million each. And so I've got 2. I want to add in 2 more right now, 2 or 3 more right now. And those are the people I want to hang out with, like at least once a month. I want to hang out with somebody like that. And that's going to level you up more. Like I have an investor who is potentially going to put about $10 million with us into a deal. He has a 1031, and he owns this big ranch out in Colorado. So he invited me up there for the weekend. He had a bunch of family and stuff. So I went and hung out with him for the weekend. I don't really know anybody besides him there, but it was cool to meet people. But you just got to put yourself in uncomfortable positions, and people like that also want to help you. People that are more successful than you want to give back. I love helping the other young people get started, giving back. I had a lot of people help me when I was getting started, mentors and people I learned from. Like you gotta go for those people, put your name out there, add value somehow, and start leveling up the people you're hanging out with, because it will level you up very fast.
Absolutely, man. That's when it all started changing. When I started hanging out with those people who were doing better than I was, you're like, wow, I need to, like, you just almost like by osmosis, like you start to do the activities that they do. You know what I mean? It's like you can't help but succeed,
Yep, absolutely,
so,
dude.
How did you find people that were, worth that well? Like, where did you, how did you find like those 2 gentlemen that who are worth like 50 million? Like, where did you go to find them? Just out of curiosity, because I'm sure people are like, what the? That's crazy. Awesome.
Yeah. So one of them sold me that third property he bought. It was 96 units in Michigan. And I sent him a mailer, and he called me. I sent him a mailer. He owned over $1 billion in real estate. He's worth a lot more than 50 million. He's in a higher 500 million category. And he I don't know why he took my call or called me from a mailer, but we ended up striking, having a relationship, and he was like, you remind me of myself when I was your age, so I'll give you a shot at buying this deal. It was a C-class deal in a C area. It was built in 1979. I think he had already showed it to a couple of his friends who nowadays wish they would have bought it. We ended up striking a deal at like $43,000 a unit for this 96 unit property, 4.2 million. And I ended up actually house hacked this. So I syndicated it, raised $1.7 million. I moved into one of the units. Because I wanted to learn management. No, I didn't. Well, yes, I paid rent, but my management, because I self-managed it, my management fees covered all my living expenses and a little bit more. So I paid rent because I have investors, so I could not pay rent. I actually paid the highest rent on the property because I took a unit and then renovated it nice, so I wanted to update, increase my rent accordingly. And then I had an on-site maintenance person and manager that were full-time. So I oversaw them. They did a lot of the operational activity, and I self-managed this 100-unit property. And, he gave me a shot on that, and we bought it for 4.2. I just sold it 2 months ago for 6.7 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
So our investors did very well. I did well on that. That was a great deal. And, it's all about relationships with people like that. He liked me because I was ambitious. I pushed him. I was like, I've never bought something this big, but just give me a shot and I'll prove to you that I can do it. And he gave me a shot, and it worked out well. So he's now a mentor of mine.
That's amazing, dude. That's
Yeah.
that's fucking awesome. That's crazy. That's
By the way, I had a ton of failures. That like sounds like a big success, but like that deal was full of failures
oh,
too.
I bet.
Ways,
I bet.
tons of things I did wrong. I mean, raising money. I first tried to start raising money by sending investors a Dropbox link with like photos,
Like the
the
wholesale
pro
deal.
forma, the Excel pro forma. Oh, it's totally because we were wholesalers, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we
It's like
tried
a
to
wholesale deal.
raise money by wholesaling. Yeah. And it was the worst way. I just can imagine all these people that probably would have invested if we did it right, and we lost them just because they didn't want to look through all that crap. And what we switched up halfway through and how we started having more success raising money is we put together a nice PDF summary, like a 6 or 7 pager, info about our team, info about the deal, the plan, the renovations, the pictures, and it was just something easy to send in an email. They can open it up quickly and look at it.
Yeah.
And so that was for failure number one in raising money was not presenting it the right way.
Then the
But,
wholesale. That's hilarious.
yeah, exactly. So I had to extend the due diligence period like 60 days. So 2 30-day extensions because I didn't have the money raised. And I went to the guy and I was like, dude, I was just honest with him every time. I was like, I'm really close, but I don't have enough money. I just had an investor pull out. Can I get another 30 days? And he's like, all right. So
that's awesome.
yeah. So that's not a very common scenario. But
yeah. Dude, that's awesome. Well, listen, this has been super fun, man. I really, this has been a fun show. I feel like it's like we're just almost having a cup of coffee, chilling. We happen to be, recording, your journey, man. So if people were interested in kind of finding out more about you, I know you have some stuff you host from time to time and some contact information. So what would be the best way? I got the 10X Facebook group here. I got the Obsidian Capital website, obsidiancapitalco.com. What are some other ways people can get in touch with you? I know you have some events that you do. So I'll just be happy to put all this in the show notes. And if people wanted to reach out, the show notes will definitely point them in the right direction.
Yeah. The best way, and what I like the best is Instagram. So if you guys have an Instagram, follow me. It's at Real Estate Jedi, or you just search David Toupin, and it should come up. And I think my website's in my bio there too. So hit me up. You can DM me on Instagram, friend me on Facebook, join the Facebook group, check out my website, and would love to connect.
Sweet, man. So we got the Instagram at Real Estate Jedi, Facebook group, your website. Awesome, man. Well, Dave, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate your time, and let's talk soon.
Hell yeah. Thanks, Craig. Talk soon.